Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is ANY255, and we are going to create our XGEN grass patch. So, okay, what you need to do is kind of go on HDRI Haven and select HDRIs, and let's get outdoor images here, and find one that you think is. I would look for something that's neutral. I'll just pick the first one. And it'll be this one. If you want to do the same one, that's great. If not, you don't need a very large one. We're just getting the color, the high dynamic range image. We don't need it to be a background per se, so it can be blurry. So I usually just stick with the 2K. And if I'm trying to get photorealism and the background needs to be perfectly clean, then I would probably use the highest range that they have, but I'm not going to use it as a background. We just want the lighting to look good, so we're not looking for a background. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and show that in the folder, and we're going to take that, copy it, and then paste it in the source images folder. Okay. Alright, so let's get right to it. Alright, so the requirements is that we create a 25 by 25. Now I'm in centimeters. I know we've been working in feet, but let's make sure we're at centimeters for this particular assignment. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Create and Polygon Primitives Plane. Go into the option box, and we're going to do 25 by 25 so we can meet the requirements, and 10 by 10 is fine, and click on Create. We no longer need to see the grid, so go to Show and turn off the grid. Alright, and what I would also recommend is that make sure you have XGEN, the tabs open, or just as make sure you have it on. Sometimes it loads, sometimes it doesn't. If you don't see XGEN, the shelf tab, go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager, and you can plug it in here. I think it's at the bottom, I believe. Yeah, there it is. XGEN plugins. You can click on Auto Load, Load it, and Auto Load if you don't see it. Okay. Another thing you'll need to have is Autodesk Maya 2020.1. Now this is the Surface Pack 1. They have Surface Pack 2, 3, and 4. It takes some time that you have to go from point 1 to the point 2 to point 3 to point 4. I know that's really silly if you already have 2020 installed. Now if you don't have 2020 installed, you're using the older version, then you can go ahead and download the 2020.4. It takes a long time. It takes about 15-20 minutes to get it downloaded. I have a video specifically for that, so make sure you watch that. That's the earlier video to get you all set up for 2020.1. Now Maya 2020 has a really bad bug in it with XGEN, and you cannot write expressions, so that's the reason why we need to upgrade. Okay, if you can get your upgrade to 2020.4, you'll be a happier camper, especially when you're using Encloth, Nhair, and especially Bifrost and XGEN. Okay, so the latest version of Maya will be your best bet. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have our HDR image. So the first thing we need to do is, you saw me copy it, now I just need to paste it. So we're going to go into New Project window, and I want you to create a new project. I've already done this. Create a new project with your first and last name, ANY255, and underscore XGEN, and create a new folder. And so it'll create all these folders that you're going to need for XGEN. XGEN has to have a specific folder to go into, and Maya usually likes this folder set up. So make sure you click on Accept. And I've already got mine set. Let me go ahead and set mine again. So here we are. This is what I put down, ANY255, Module 13 XGEN. I'm going to go ahead and set that. And now that I have it set, I just need to place my source, my image, my HDR image into the source images folder. Okay, we're ready to start. So I need you to select XGEN, and we have a preview here. We can turn that on and off if we want to. So there's no preview. We don't have anything to look at. But you have the shelf icons all along here that you guys can look at and mess with. A lot of these are groomable icons. You can groom your XGEN. And we're not going to be worried about that right now. We're going to create a patch of grass. As you guys know, if you read the lessons, the content and lessons in the videos, that XGEN can do a ton of stuff, and it's basically an instancer. So if you have a couple of rocks, it can instance those rocks all over your entire scene, and place them exactly where you want them. You can actually paint them in like you could in Unreal 4 editor, where you can paint grass and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really very powerful. Okay, and you can render in Arnold too as well. I think V-Ray supports it as well. Okay, so XGEN, let's take a look. We're going to assign a description. So make sure you select your object. Make sure you delete all the nodes that are involved in it, meaning that you delete by type history. And I just do all three, and that takes care of everything. And then have it selected, and then create new description. Description we're going to call patch. I don't capitalize anything when I'm working in Maya. It's just a smart thing to do. And then this is going to be grass. Keep it simple. And we're going to keep everything defaulted so you can see what happens. Click on create. And I'm just going to face it towards me in the Z, so I know which way my U and V are facing, so you can get a good idea of what's going on there. Okay, so I was talking about the preview. So if you have a machine that's really laggy, like a laptop computer, you may want to turn this off, and this will make it run a little bit faster. It really depends on your system. But with that off, every time you change something in here, you won't see it, so it doesn't really help you. You just got to remember every time that you make a change, you have to go up here and go, okay, now I got to turn it back on. That's up to you. Of course, I leave mine on. My system can handle it just fine. I'm going to get zoomed in here so we can see a little bit better. The grass right now is kind of short. Okay. So what we want to do, you can see we have a density in here. You can change the density of how much grass you want. Again, be careful, be careful, be careful. It will slow you down. Okay. And the rendering is going to be atrocious, the render time. So just keep that in mind. I don't care if you go as far as you want. If you crash your system, that's on you. It really depends. Right now we're going to keep it down low the way we had it, because we can kind of see better what the grass looks like. And then I can turn that up as we get into rendering and stuff like that. So that's the density. Okay. And then we have the length. So we want the grass to be a little bit longer. Maybe uncut grass would be great. Let's take a look at that. That looks kind of good. I like that. For the scale, that looks pretty good. And then the width. Now the width I don't really fiddle with that much, but I'm going to move this over. I can't see the whole entire thing. I want to see this entire grid, this ramp. And I like using the ramp. Now think of grass. Take a look at a blade of grass. If you haven't lately, it doesn't grow to a point. Okay. Now wild grass might. Okay. Wild grass might, because it hasn't been cut. Of course, it depends on what you're trying to do. You're going to create a lawn, or you're going to create field grass. Okay. If you're going to create field grass, then it would come to a point, right? Okay. So think of a leaf. Okay. So it's just like a leaf. Grass is just a blade. Okay. Think of it as a leaf. It's more narrow at the base and fuller around the middle, and then tapers to the top. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and it's not a perfect point either. That's something you guys got to keep in mind. Okay, so right now it's just the same from the bottom to the top, which is not good. So I'm going to create a couple of these just by clicking on it. Okay, all the way across. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to move these down. Okay, so I'm going to start with a more narrow base, okay, for the leaf, and I'm going to get a nice curvature all the way up here, as you can see. Alright, let's get one right there too. There we go, kind of just pull it up like that. And we don't want it too thin at the bottom. It looks kind of weird if we do that. The root is a little bit thinner. Okay, there we go. And if we go to the top, we can now go down at the very top here, you can see. Okay. Still have that in there. Let's bring that over a little bit, like that. And you can see that gets sharper and sharper. Okay. Right, I don't want to sharpen it to a point that's unrealistic. Okay. So let's bring it down probably about halfway. Okay. Alright. Something like that. Blade of grass. Looks a lot nicer and it looks more realistic that way. Okay, great. And it will fill out better too. Okay. Now we can bring these down a little bit more like that to get more of an extreme feel on the middle part. But I think that's it's a good representation of a blade of grass. Alright, that's great. Okay, so now let's go ahead and scroll down. And we have our bend U and V. No grass is perfectly straight. It's going to bend under its own weight or bend over to make it more natural looking. Now we could go in here and bend it like this, but it's not random. It looks really bizarre. Okay? It's cool, but it's very bizarre. So you can see if I go to the corner here, we can see how these will play in and how we can bend our grass. Okay? So let's go ahead and bring those back to where they should be. Let's just type in 0. And let's add an expression. That's the way to go ahead and randomize this, make this look a lot more natural, like growing grass. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of. I'm going to turn my density up a little bit. There we go. Now that I have that done, I'm going to turn my density up, and I don't know why it's not going on to that. There we go. Now it's getting there. Okay, great. So here's my density now. Okay, and I'm probably going to make this a little bit longer too. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll kind of have some tall grass here, right? And so in here we're going to go ahead. We have to write an expression. So in Maya 2020, you weren't able to click on these and get into the expression editor. That's why we had to download Maya 2020.1. So if you're clicking on this and nothing is happening, you're not getting this to open up, then you don't have the right version. So you need to make sure you have Maya 2020.1. At this point, if you can't get it to work, you need to go in and watch the other video that I had earlier on how to download and install Maya 2020.1. Alright, with that said, I've got some expressions already written, and I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. It would be hard for me to show you this on here because the video is so small and I'm unable to get that larger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this expression right here. Okay? Alright. So I'm going to do is minimize this, and you can see that if we start at the top, okay, let's get back into Maya really quick, that I don't know where I started here. Let's start right at the top here, the bend parameter. Okay, click on that, and we're going to start with that one. So the top one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it now. This is the the money sign. Okay, A equals rand. That means random, and then we have 0.3-1, and I'm probably going to give you this Word document so you can just copy and paste it, but you can see it. But I'm going to give it to you anyway. Control C makes it a lot easier for you guys to do this. Alright, then we can go in here and just highlight that portion right there, and then Control V. Okay, and then I can click on Apply and Accept. Okay, now nothing's going to happen yet. Okay, all right. Now we're going to do with the next one. Okay, next expression. Highlight that one. Do a Control C. Go back into Maya, and then just highlight that all the way over, and then Control V. Okay, and then Apply and Accept. Okay, we got some cool stuff going on here. And then we're going to go into that expression, the last one here, and then we're going to randomize the other direction. And notice this is it's exactly the same expression. So we got to copy that. All right, and we'll paste that one in there like that. And apply and accept, and there we go. Now we got a randomization of both U and V, and for some reason I've got a little bald spot right there, and we'll just have to fix that with density. There we go, fill that baby up. There we go. And so that looks pretty good. That looks like grass, except it's too short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lengthen that up a little bit. There we go, like that, to make it look a little more nicer to look at. And again, I might have to turn up the density to get that bald spot out. And that could just be a refresh or preview issue. Again, just kind of refresh this, you know. That might help too. I don't know. So there you go. There's our grass. Now it looks really good. It looks more like grass than it did before. And again, if you don't like your width ramp, you guys can make changes to that even after you have the expressions done. Okay, so you might want to just kind of play with that. And I'm getting too many in here. There we go. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. They were a little thick, I think. Yeah, that looks much nicer. And you tweak it how you want. You know, what you think looks best. Okay, so great, cool. And of course, cut grass, you know, you would take the top and you would make it flat. And that looks more like cut grass that was just mowed. Cool. But I like it the way it was before. There we go. Not to a point, because that looks unrealistic. And whenever you do that, you can see that, look at it, I get some bald spots on it. It's really strange. If you see that, just kind of move that density up and down again. Just kind of wake it up. And sometimes hitting the preview again will redraw it, but okay. Now if your computer's having a hard time, mine's not, but if you have a hard time with your computer going really slow, go to preview and you can do the percentage, okay, a lot less. Once you get your grass looking the way you want it, then you can bring that down if you want to, and it will render an Arnold like you have it at 100. Okay, so feel confident in that. I can keep mine at 100. That's fine. Alright, so I think we're good with that. Now we just need to add a color.